So my big question sometimes is, does play really matter? And if that is your curiosity, make sure you listen to last week's episode with Jeff Harry, because we really dug into how positive psychology and play have so many business outcomes. We talked about stories from WebEx and Zoom and Blockbuster and Netflix and Google, and the things that will genuinely make your leadership and your team so much more effective. So if you missed part one, make sure you listen, because the power of positive psychology is unbelievable in the workplace. And I am so excited that Jeff is coming back for part two. To give you a quick recap of who the amazing Jeff Harry is, he has been doing this facilitation work around positive psychology and play for 15 years. He's one of the top 100 HR influencers. He is a Ted Lasso aficionado and fan as much as I am. And so, I was pretty excited to have him. So let's welcome back Jeff.
What's up?
Hello. So glad to have you back. So last week, we were talking about how positive psychology has all these business outcomes and helping people really find their zone of genius, as Gay Hendricks was talking about. So can you give us a quick recap of like the productivity power of finding zone of genius and why play matters in figuring that out? Like just a little review for us.
So when you're at play, you are truly you, right? And when we talked last week, we talked about how people feel seen, heard, and appreciated and valued when they're playing. And tying it into Ted Lasso.
Always here for that.
Like if you watch the show, you watch him playing. Yes. As a form of attunement. It's his way of actually connecting with his staff, with his players. And I didn't talk about this last week, but attunement is one of the first ways you ever played as a baby. And when you were born, you locked eyes with your parent or your guardian, right? And it's one of the only times your brain waves match identically with that person.
Yeah.
Right. And you feel seen, heard, appreciated, and valued, all non-verbally. And then you look for that level of connection for the rest of your life, whether in relationships, friendships, or at work. Right. So Ted constantly used play as its form of attunement to build this safety mechanism, this psychological safety like experience, so that he could eventually figure out what was it that people love to do? What was their way of playing the game their way, in their most joyful way? And he could bring the best out of people. That's the power that play can have. Yeah. If you're willing to be patient in order to do that. Mind you, and I wanted to emphasize it for this talk, you have to make the playground safe first.
Yes.
And what's crucial about that. And again, I'm not talking about forced fun. I hate forced fun. This is not Walmart where we sing songs before we start the day. That's horrible.
Now, that is not horrible. I'm going to say that is not terrible if it's done well. But
if it's done well, a lot of times it's not. Because again, play is about choice. It's about you create a playground, and you're like, if you want to be part of it, then you can be. But I talk a ton. I think this is John Amici, who used to be Orlando Magic's center, and he talks about how work culture is defined by the worst behavior tolerated.
Yes.
So what is that behavior that you're tolerating? What is that toxic behavior? Because forget about your mission statement, forget about all the posters on the wall with the eagle and the integrity. I have a belief that the more of those posters you have, the more toxic your workplace is.
Ken Black and I talked about that.
Integrity.
It's so bad.
You're so bad. It's just like, why are you reminding me of basic
things? And it's a reminder that no one's living by it.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's not about your mission and values, which, by the way, most of the time when you ask staff, what are your mission and values? Most people don't know. Most people can't even, but they know what the worst work culture is. They know what's the worst behavior.
It's tolerated.
So you have to address that. Because if you don't address the bullies on the playground, then people don't feel safe enough to play at work,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then they're not going to be vulnerable. They're not going to allow themselves to share their joy because they don't trust the people that are around them.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to address that.
Well, and that keeps people, when people are too afraid to fail,
Yeah.
if they, the vulnerability to try does
Yeah.
not exist, then they keep their ideas to themselves, which we talked about last week about WebEx and Zoom. But they not only keep their ideas to themselves, their discretionary effort doesn't go toward the work.
Yeah.
Like everybody has discretionary effort. We
Yeah.
don't literally work for 40 hours. We've
Yeah.
got it's a fungible amount in
Yes.
there. And the 40-hour work week is a
That's the whole,
creation, that's a whole other podcast. But like the idea of like, you said this last week, that if somebody feels seen, heard, and valued, I'm going to do the work for you.
Yeah.
If I know that you're bringing the resources, if I know that you care about what I'm doing, if I believe that I can share an idea and it can be tried and failed without repercussion, that's safety.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to bring more ideas.
Yeah.
And that's where innovation exists and better ideas.
And as you said, most people can only do focused work for 4 hours a day.
Yes.
So, so first off, why are we even doing 40 hours? That's just a waste of time.
It's a whole different ballgame.
But if you're in your flow work, then you're willing to do more, right? And I don't think I spent enough time defining play last time, but I define play as any joyful act where you forget about time, right?
Oh, that's a good definition.
Where you are fully in flow, right? Where you lose track of time. And because of that, play is the opposite of perfection. Perfection is rooted in ego, shame, and constantly trying to be right, while play is rooted in curiosity, a sense of wonder, a sense of awe. You can't create innovation from a sense of ego and a place of like perfection where there's not a willingness to make a mistake. And what's so interesting is your body knows when you're in a toxic work environment or a not psychologically safe work environment before your mind does, before you do.
Because we rationalize it.
It's sick. On Sunday night, they get the Sunday scaries because they can't even be themselves. It's what you said with the discretionary time. They're spending half their time just pretending to be someone else that they're not so that they can get through the day.
Yeah.
You know? Part of the reason why I wear this ridiculous bow tie is mocking the
there's an alert.
Remember alert. Well, okay. Yeah. I'm in California, by the way, so don't have to worry about it if you're in the Midwest. Okay. Yeah, I wear this ridiculous bow tie because it mocks the costume that we are. Because a lot of people are like, oh, well, we'll play. Aren't you just pretending? And it's just like, you pretend now. You pretend now to be someone that you're not, to be able to tolerate work. I'm just being my ridiculous, silly self and being like, you can accept me or not, but this is how I'm going to show up. That's a place I want to work at, right? Yeah. A place like Zappos that celebrates like weirdness, right? Yeah. Those are the places you want to be at, while other organizations, you're dressing up and wearing a costume every day, even if it's not just your outfit, just like your personality. And that is exhausting. That level of code switching is tiring.
It's truly exhausting. And one of my favorite quotes I say all the time is by David White. And he says that the cure for exhaustion isn't always rest. It's wholeheartedness.
Yes.
And that is because we are designed to be whole people, not scattered and shattered and pulled apart. And like, I have to be this certain way in order to be able to have a sense of belonging. So I'm selling my belonging by being this way. And that is exhausting. It takes so much more energy to not be yourself.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about like your base, like out for yourself kind of gross aspects of yourself. Like your favorite aspects of yourself, the ones that feel good and contribute to society, where this has a sense of purpose. And Jillian Farabee is an amazing play expert as well. And she talks about fun And you know when you're in that good place, when we talked about the sense of time changes, either
Mhm.
no time has passed or you could do this forever,
Yep.
but it's a whole body experience.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole body experience. You feel like you're in the zone and you feel alive.
Yeah.
And the stakes are exciting.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the stakes are exciting, it's not punitive exciting versus fearful. Like something is exciting, which means it matters. And that's that sense of purpose where you get to bring your whole self and into the
And
space.
not only does it matter, but you feel there's growth,
Yes,
right? Like you're
yes,
growing
absolutely.
as a team, right? If you
Mhm.
think of your most memorable moments at work, they're probably fun, joy, play moments that you had with your colleagues, like staying late because you got to like work on a presentation, right? Or you did something really amazing. You got some like contract, whatever it is. But it's
Yep.
those and they even talk about this in sports, as much as MJ and Kobe loved to win, when they thought back on their favorite moments, they weren't the winning moments.
Mhm.
They were just the like locker room connection moments. They missed that more than anything.
Yeah.
The day to day of like being real and being silly with people, right? And just like
Mhm.
really connecting like a human being. And I think we've forgotten about that. And I
Yes.
think we've been gaslit for the last few years because clearly everyone's burnt out, right?
Right. We have all the
We've been
signs.
burnt out since the pandemic. Hey, we were burnt out before the pandemic, and then it was even
Yeah.
worse during, and then now and we've never rested. We never
Yeah.
celebrated the fact that we even got through it. We've never addressed that. We've never allowed people to truly rest.
Mhm.
That's why I'm pitching a 4-day work week, because it's just like, dude, it
Uh-huh.
needs to be just happen because we're not going to do it otherwise, right? And by the way, us doing more work doesn't make us more productive, right?
No.
In the
No.
office
It
40
becomes the law of
hours.
diminishing returns.
Yeah, then you're
Yeah.
just like you're just sitting and waiting for the time to pass, right?
Mhm.
That's not a good use of your staff's time,
Mhm.
right? So a challenge that I put out to your listeners is ask yourself, where are we wasting time? Right?
Mhm.
How many meetings don't need to be a meeting, right? How many processes or reports are we making just because someone doesn't trust someone else,
Mhm.
right? And we're just
And then the flip side of that is how much time are we wasting in back and forth emails and
yes,
reports that could be solved with a 7-minute phone call?
yes,
Y
or
you know,
just a,
like
or
because
just a vulnerable discussion,
yes,
right? Or how
absolutely.
many meetings are really meetings between two people, but they want to have an audience, right?
Mhm.
Like we waste so much time. And
Mhm.
if we were able to build a psychologically safe work environment, then people could have honest conversations and be like, does this meeting need to happen anymore? Or can we just cancel this? Right.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I have an idea that totally contradicts where we're going, but it might save us millions of dollars. Like then you can actually have real conversation. You can actually have difficult conversations. And
Mhm.
here's the thing about play, right? The part of play is the practice of it. I tell people this all the time
Yes. It's a
where
practice.
where in football you watch teams practice all week for a 3-hour game.
Mhm.
Yet at work, we never practice having a hard conversation. We just wing it,
Yeah.
right? So no wonder we're making as many mistakes as we're having, right? We're
Mhm.
not playing enough and we're not playing out the scenarios to actually give us the bravery to ask for what we want. And,
Yes.
and then be also willing to set our boundaries so that we are not taken advantage of at work. Because right now, a lot of people feel exploited,
Mhm.
devalued, and it's not the place that it should be.
No, and it doesn't have to be that. As I've been working on the book and doing the research around the topics of play and joy in the workplace, it also doesn't have to be everything.
Yeah,
Well, I keep coming back to the
yeah,
statistic that when people are in flow, doing work that they are resourced for, that they are talented for, that they're in that zone of genius or even zone of excellence and they're liking it
yeah,
and they're experiencing that space 35% of the time. 35% of the time. It's a third. It's
yeah,
not like
yeah,
every day, all day. And I think that's important because I, as a recovering kind of toxic positivity person, can be like, it's fine when it's not
yeah,
fine. Like there are parts of our job that we just have to do. And the opposite of joy isn't work, it's toil. work
Yeah.
that is meaningless, not resourced.
Yeah.
And that part of work needs to be 10% of time,
Yes.
which is really kind of fair. Like, let's think, I mean, like everybody, nobody likes to empty the cat box in my house. Like
Yeah.
it's a thing. So, but somebody has to, otherwise there's a
Mhm.
lot of repercussions. And so there's lots of ways to figure out how to make sure that's only 10% of everybody's time,
Yeah.
because there are parts of work that I don't know if it's anybody's zone of genius. I mean, maybe I'm selling somebody
Yeah.
short about the cat box, but there are things that we have to do. And when we're in that kind of ratio, there's so much power in coming to work in a space that's like, oh, this is enjoyable. Like, we think it has to be everything, but it really doesn't have to be everything. It's just part of it. And the play and the practice part is so important, because and I talked about last week, the Joyosity Explorer map. There's a little bit of play that's involved in that, because you don't necessarily know. You figure out through play what kind of works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, which kind of brings me to what I really would love some help on. I always, even though I talk about play and you talk about play, and I've had Gary Ware on talking about play,
Yeah.
how do we help leaders, and how do you help leaders do this work? How do you play more?
Yeah.
How do you, we've talked about how you have to create the psychological safety first by not tolerating the bad behavior. But what do we do to actually get into the zone and experience play in the workplace?
So there's uh let's get into tangible
I
action
love
steps, right?
it. Do it.
So let's first address yours. So we identify what is the toil work and
Hmm.
how do we reduce the toil work. So we're addressing that, right? Then
Hmm.
we're also addressing what's the worst work culture that we're tolerating, and how do we address that? So that clears this place.
Clears the playground.
It clears the glass off of the playground so that we can play, right? Then you can start to have the conversation with your staff about zone of genius. What is the work that you forget about time? Oh, I love to, I would love to do a podcast, or I love just talking and interviewing people. Oh, sweet. Does our company have a podcast? Is there a way we can allocate some time for this person to do this? Or I love to write. Oh, sweet. We don't have a blog. Or right now our blog is done. So we need somebody. Like, can you give them 1 to 2 hours where they can do their zone of genius? They feel seen, heard, and appreciated. That's another action step. Also, what you do, and this is something that I've done many times with coaching clients and also at conferences, is I have them do a visualization exercise where I have them explore what they love to do as a kid.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I would have them be like, okay, well, I'll give you an example with me. So what I love to do as a kid is I love to combine all my board games together and make an epic board game of
Hmm.
Mousetrap, Monopoly, Clue, Candyland, Shoots and Ladders. Let's just like keep going, endless. Sorry, right? All of them. Why did I do that? When you look at your play when you were a kid and you look at your play values, you
Hmm.
identify my play values are creativity, connection, and collaboration.
Hmm.
Those are my values. So if you can then take those play values and help people be like, based off of those 3 play values, what is your favorite way to work? How do we do more of that? One of my favorite ways to work is speaking. Okay, great. How do I use creativity, connection, collaboration in order to do that? Right. All of the work that I do best is creativity, connection, and collaboration. So help your staff figure out their play values and then identify what work they can do with that. Right.
Yes, I love that. One of the other things that I think you can do that helps people connect to what they enjoy. I love asking, yes, what did you love to play as a kid?
Yeah.
I also love, what's your favorite movie? And
Oh,
we
yeah.
talk about your favorite
Yeah.
movie and what are the values represented in the characters and the plot, in what's happening. And I do this activity a lot when we're doing values work, but also when we're doing play work, because it is hilarious what people come up with. And sometimes it's not even about the movie itself. It's about the experience the first time they watched that movie, which
Yes.
also tells you something.
Yes.
And then I think the third thing that's really helpful is Stuart Brown's play
Oh,
personalities. I
yeah. The
use
play
this
for I
with
love
my
the play
clients
for Yep.
a lot. And I can't remember if it's Gillian Farabee who said it or somebody else, but that play grown up is your craft. And so
Yes.
I say that a lot. So as an explorer, my play personality is explorer. It's no wonder that workshops are really fun for me, that
Yeah.
I enjoy helping people explore ideas. I am in no way a collector. So don't put me in front of a spreadsheet.
Yep. Yep.
That is a bad plan for
Yep.
everybody. And so I think Stuart Brown's play personalities is another great tool to help you figure out where you enjoy things that are, again, sometimes hard to identify because it's just your normal. You need sometimes some outside feedback to help you figure it out.
One other exercise you can do, and this is even better to do this with friends, right? To figure out your play. If you're like, well, I haven't played in a really long time. Like,
Mhm.
I've been busy being an adult. Um, you would go to 3 to 5 of your closest friends, right? Or family, like whoever you feel knows you. And you would ask them these 2 questions. What value do I bring to your life? Because a lot of times we don't know the value. We don't know the impact that we have on people, right? And then the second question is, when have you seen me come most alive?
Yes.
And another way of asking that is, when have you seen me at play? When have you seen me most creative, most playful, most taking risks, right? So the 2 questions again: what value do I bring to your life, and when have you seen me come most alive? And when you get answers from 3 to 5 different people, there are patterns that form. And then you're like, oh, these are the ways I used to play, or these are ways I've played in the past where I was really excited and I haven't done this in a while. And then you can turn to those 3 to 5 same friends and be like, hey, based off these patterns, here are some ideas that I want to do. Can you help me actually make that happen? Right.
Yeah.
And Gary Ware talks a ton about this, of
Yes.
having a play buddy that actually helps you actualize that stuff. Because
Yes.
all of this play stuff in the workplace, not only is it helping you understand who you are, but then it helps you understand the motivations of your staff so that you
Yes.
can drive their joy. You can help them
Mhm.
find their joy at work.
Absolutely.
And granted, it's a much harder job than you simply being like, do your work, right?
Right.
Or finish this thing by the deadline. But that is management. That is not leadership. And you got to
Mhm.
ask yourself, do you want to lead? And if you want to lead, don't you want to lead in a playful way?
Absolutely. Well, and we've already talked about, even though both of us bristle a little bit at the concept of ROI, that when you lead this way, it's actually better. It's
Yeah,
actually more productive. You get the business outcomes that everybody wants to begin with. And it feels counterintuitive because we've been sold the lie that productivity is about doing more and it's
right,
about profit and earning for the shareholders. Like that's the thing. And that's actually not what work is for. Work
right.
is to solve a problem for a community. That's why
Yeah,
we work. And if you do that well, you know what happens? You make a profit.
yeah.
And the
My
way to do
my friend Julie Trell, who's this phenomenal play facilitator and speaker out of Australia, even though she's from the US, would always talk about, forget about ROI. What is your ROP? What's
Oh,
your return on play?
I
You know what I'm saying? Because
love it.
seriously, what is your return on play?
Yeah,
Because when you look at organizations when they were startups, they were just playing.
yeah.
And now, because of their play, we have TikTok, we have Google, we have
Mhm.
all of these fascinating
Yeah,
inventions that at the one point were just some ideas that someone was like, I don't know, that they came up with in their garage and were just doing it because they thought it would be really cool,
yeah.
right?
Like
That was the point.
literally the printing press.
Right.
Dude, like literally building in his house because he's like, there's got to be a way to make this better so I can move the type. How do I figure that out? He was playing. Uh, and that whole idea that play is what creates innovation, I think is this vulnerable, scary thing because it's not a checklist. And
Yeah.
we're so bought into this idea of what's the checklist. And
Yeah.
yes, there have to be action steps. Yes, you have to actually do and try. And that's where it's vulnerable. But it is so much more powerful to lead in that way and so much more effective. And I think if we're really honest with ourselves, just like we talked about, you can feel the difference in a toxic work environment. You know what that Sunday scary feels like. I have a client right now that it's dire.
Yeah.
Like, and he's got to get out but it's dire every day. And the toll on his health, his family, all of that
Yep.
is intense. And we're
Yep.
doing all the things, coach and client to keep his nose above water.
Yep. Just to
But
survive. Just to
just to
survive.
survive, it shouldn't take that much effort. And
Yeah.
and so we know what that feels like. So if you just think about the flip side, if it doesn't have to be that way, why are we living like this?
Right. And you also know when you're in a playful work environment, you
Uh-huh.
feel it, right?
Mhm.
You can feel the energy of like possibility, of curiosity, of the willingness to take risks. Those are the organizations, like I said in the first podcast, right? The futures where people are having the most fun. When
Mhm.
you're, I'm sure when you've been at at a restaurant and you hear the fun table and everyone's laughing and you're like, I want to be over there. I want to be at the fun table. I'm over here. This is
Oh
the
my
stiff perfectionist table where everyone is pretending to be all adulty, but I want to be over there where they're all having fun and giggling, right? You
God.
want that. You want that. We need to cultivate more of that.
Mhm. Yes. So my last question, because we're getting close on time for you, is can you give us a story of your own experience, like a moment in time where you felt that play and the productivity that you're like, oh my gosh, like I see the connection of the power of play in my own work.
Yeah. Ooh, there's a few different ones. Okay, I'll do the one with Gary Ware. So Gary Ware and I are sitting at a burrito spot in San Diego because you got to get a breakfast burrito when you're in San Diego. Look, just fly into
This
San
is true.
And
It's
El
true.
Sarabi is my burrito spot, by the way. And
I
we get
love it.
emos later. Emos is a whole other conversation. But yeah, so we're having a burrito and we're just talking about how we left jobs that we loved. We left companies that we loved because of the toxic
Mhm.
leader that we had. And a lot of
Same.
people don't realize that your mental health is more impacted by your manager
Yep.
than your spouse.
Your spouse, your doctor, and your
And
therapist.
your therapist. So we're venting about this. And then we were like, wouldn't it be cool if we, you know, like address the a-hole issue at work? And he was like, yeah, we should make like a workshop. And we're like, yeah, maybe we'll call it dealing with a-holes in the workplace through play. So we just made it up. And then we pitched it at this conference. We would always go to World Domination Summit, and they just like let you try out whatever you want. And we had so much fun doing it that then we pitched it to real conferences like Inbound, the largest marketing conference in
Mhm.
the world, South by Southwest. We even pitched it to this place called Pause Fest in Australia. We got into all three and we were like, oh my goodness, there is a need. And this came from us just joking around about this. And
Yeah.
then we started running this workshop and it was very therapeutic for people,
Yeah.
right? And
So
even now,
powerful.
I'm kind of like evolving the workshop to like address narcissism in the workplace.
Mhm.
It's going to be challenging in the next few years as, a lot of narcissists are going to be very empowered, right? But
Yep.
like, how do we challenge power in this? But mind you, this became one of the most impactful workshops for a lot of people, but it came from our play. It
Yeah.
came from us just trusting our instincts, listening to who we are, listening to our, gut feeling, and believing, as Tracy Gee said, right, that what if the thing that I'm creating, someone is looking for that,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
when you allow yourself to have that curiosity, that the thing that I'm most talented at, the thing that I love the most, actually someone out there needs it, right? This is
Mhm.
when we get into that quote of like, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive.
Yes.
Because what the world needs is for you to come alive, right? This
Absolutely.
is what we are
Come
doing.
alive. Come
What play and
alive.
positive psychology are doing, right?
Yes.
And this is what makes work not suck so much
Mhm.
because then when you see someone doing something that makes them come alive, it drives you to be like, I want to do that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And you're so grateful when somebody else comes alive at the thing you don't wanna do.
Yes.
You
Oh,
know, like,
oh, you
and it
love spreadsheets? Oh, thank goodness, because I
yes.
hate.
I mean, my business manager, God bless Daniel Robinson. I mean, love him because of the work that he does for me. And I couldn't do it. And it would take me, I mean, I could. It's kind of in my competency zone, but
Right.
barely.
It's
It's
like
so
your
much work.
kryptonite. Yes.
Yeah. So totally. I am so glad that we got to chat. I am so grateful for this conversation. Please tell the people how you can keep up with them. If you're watching on YouTube, this is called a QR code. The QR code is there at Jeff's website, but tell us, out loud with your words, how to keep up with you, where to find you, all the
So
things.
I make a lot of stupid, ridiculous videos with wigs. I don't know if I have my wig here, but yeah. And where I mock the workplace, and you can find me at Jeff Harry Plays. So JeffHarryPlays, and that's my handle on YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, all of them, all the handles.
Great.
Whatever the new blue thing that I'm supposed to be
Blue
on.
skies,
Yeah, there you go.
lemonade. Where are we going to go next?
All those. And then if you want to work with me, if you want to infuse more fun into your workplace and address the reasons why it's not as enjoyable and want to make work suck less in your organization, then just simply go to rediscoveryourplay.com and click on the Let's Play button. And let's hang out. Let's connect. Let's figure out how we can make work suck less through play and positive psychology.
I love it. And, if you want to bring us in together, we do. It's so fun. We've been in a couple conferences together. I'll flip my hair for you. An extra one just for Jeff.
I'll flip mine as well.
Yeah.
It always gets in my hair, my eyes. It's ridiculous.
It's so bad. It's so bad. All right, friends. Thank you again, Jeff, for your time, your expertise, your wisdom, for bringing us joy at work. I am so grateful for you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. Take care, everybody.
Bye,
Good luck.
everyone. So let me put my coach hat on for just a moment. Don't just leave this here. Take a moment. What did you learn? What's your next tiny action step? Share this episode with someone and tell them what you're going to do. Check the show notes for all the links and connect with us on LinkedIn and all the other socials, or just, drop me an email at Jen with 2 N's at jenwhitmer.com. We want to keep this conversation going with you. I know your earballs have a lot coming at them, so thank you for listening to the Joyosity podcast and being a part of our community. Please take a moment to rate and subscribe. It helps more people join us in the movement to create positive culture with complex people. So work is a joy, people are whole, and organizations flourish. Can't wait for you to join us next week.